Hi there, and welcome to Oaklandside 510. I'm Tasneem Raja, Editor-in-Chief of the Oaklandside, Oakland's independent, nonprofit newsroom. Later in this week's episode, I'm going to briefly catch you up on speed cameras coming to Oakland's most dangerous roads, share some good news about Oakland's costly coal terminal lawsuit, and tell you about a city hall clash between a council member and a high-up city staffer who are accusing each other of ethics violations. Plus, we've got holiday gift guides to help you shop local in 3 Oakland neighborhoods. But first, we're going to deep dive into one of the most important stories we've published all year. It's a major investigation into the man who appears to be the FBI's key informant in the federal corruption case against former Mayor Sheng Thao. Before we get to all of that, I just want to give you a heads up. Oaklandside's most important fundraising drive of the year is happening right now. Our reporting is free for everyone in Oakland because residents like you pitch in to make sure Oakland has the high-quality coverage our beautiful city deserves. Our year-end fundraising drive is on until December 31st, and I hope you will be part of it. The link is in the show notes. Okay, on to our main story today. In January, federal prosecutors unveiled serious allegations against former Mayor Sheng Thao, her partner, Andre Jones, and Oakland businessmen David and Andy Duong. The feds accuse them of orchestrating an elaborate bribery scheme aimed at securing a lucrative city contract. And the feds' case relies heavily on someone prosecutors call co-conspirator 1. Oaklandside's reporting strongly suggests that co-conspirator 1 is Mario Juarez, a Fruitvale businessman and Democratic Party insider. Our latest reporting uncovers his decades-long history of fraud accusations, failed business deals, bitter legal disputes, and criminal investigations. To help me understand this story, I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues, Darwin Bongram, our news editor, and Natalie Ornstein, our City Hall reporter. Along with Eli Wolf, who is out this week, they have spent the past year and a half investigating the federal anti-corruption case that has snared Oakland's former mayor and others. What they have found is remarkable, and it raises serious questions about the foundation of the FBI's case. It also raises questions about how someone with Juarez's troubled record was able to get so close to so many powerful politicians and business leaders, including an Oakland mayor, state assembly members, and our state attorney general, Rob Bonta. Darwin, Natalie, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I want to make it clear right here at the top, Mario Juarez denies any and all wrongdoing related to this case and every case we're going to discuss in this episode. We reached out to Juarez in several ways for our latest investigation into his past. He did not speak to us for this story. Okay, guys, let's start at the beginning. Natalie, for people who have not been following this story closely, can you explain who Mario Juarez is and why he matters to the FBI's corruption case?
Sure. So Mario Juarez is a 40-something, well-known Fruitvale businessman who's been active in East Bay Democratic politics for years now. He's run for Oakland City Council twice, he's served on the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee, and he's built close relationships with some very powerful people. He also had a tough childhood, which he's been public about. He immigrated to the U.S. from Honduras as a kid, and he grew up in an Oakland community that was, dealing with the consequences of neglect and poverty. Also during that period, he was abused by his Boy Scouts leader. As a teenager, Juarez actually had the courage to testify against this man, leading to his conviction. But what makes him central to the FBI case is that the federal indictment against Sheng Thao refers repeatedly to someone called co-conspirator 1. This person is described as a local businessman, an active member of the political community, and someone who co-founded a housing company with the Duongs. That description happens to match Mario Juarez perfectly. And according to prosecutors, co-conspirator 1 and the Duongs bribed Thao and Andre Jones in pursuit of millions of dollars in city contracts. And in fact, the whole FBI's case seems to rely very heavily on the word of co-conspirator one.
Clearly, this guy is really important to this case. Darwin, you guys have spent weeks digging into Juarez's background. Tell us what you have found.
Yeah, we reviewed 27 civil lawsuits involving Juarez. We looked at Department of Real Estate enforcement records, 3 criminal investigations of Juarez, as well as records of his 2 bankruptcies and other legal filings. Many of these cases included accusations that he cheated people, companies, investors, and even government agencies out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's been charged with fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. And yet, and this is really striking, Juarez has managed to avoid any criminal convictions.
Okay, so you're saying he keeps getting accused, he keeps facing legal trouble, but he never gets convicted.
Yeah, exactly. Cases get dismissed or he pleads no contest and gets a deal that doesn't result in a conviction. It seems to be a pattern that repeats over and over.
Okay, Natalie, now let's go deeper into some of these cases. Like, what kind of allegations are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about a lot of different things. These cases span multiple industries and decades. Starting in the early 2000s, for example, Juarez ran a debt collection business. The city of Oakland hired his company to collect unpaid judgments. But then later, the city actually sued him, claiming he cheated Oakland by failing to accurately report what he collected and by keeping money that should have gone to the city.
Wow.
The city's attorney even claimed Juarez destroyed company records to hinder the investigation. Now, Juarez eventually settled with Oakland for $31,000. But years later, when he was running for city council and this case came up, he said it was all political, that he was only sued because the city attorney and council wanted to stop him from winning a seat on city council. But other clients accused him of similar things, collecting money on their behalf and then keeping it for himself.
Also, notably, around the same time, Juarez got into real estate. He obtained his real estate license in 2004, and almost immediately lawsuits started piling up. In one case, a home buyer accused Juarez of failing to disclose that a duplex had been illegally divided and that the rear unit was built illegally. The buyer claimed Juarez willfully concealed these facts. Juarez denied the allegations. In another case, a pair of Nevada developers hired Juarez to collect rent and renovate a commercial property in Fruitvale, but they claimed he embezzled rent, didn't have a contractor's license, and when they tried to evict him, he encouraged other tenants to stop paying rent and dump piles of trash and human waste on the property.
Oh, okay. That's an escalation.
Yeah, definitely. And the developer's attorney wrote in their lawsuit against Juarez that he had, quote, a long history, pattern, and practice of defrauding creditors. She also sought a restraining order claiming Juarez assaulted her during a visit to the property, that he pushed her, hit her, and tore her clothing. Juarez denied those claims and filed his own restraining order accusing the attorney of punching him. A judge ended up issuing an injunction against Juarez, but that was overturned on appeal.
Okay. Natalie, another big part of your reporting focuses on Juarez's business ventures outside of real estate. Tell us more about all that.
Right. So in 2008, Juarez created a company called Viridis Fuels, a biodiesel venture. The board of directors for that company included some major local figures like former Oakland Mayor Mario Juarez. And to fund this project, Juarez turned to his real estate clients and he promised them big returns. But multiple of those investors later sued him, claiming he failed to pay them back. For example, one investor claims Juarez told him he could triple his $50,000 investment in just 3 years. When the investor tried to get this money back, Juarez refused. That case was eventually dismissed. Another couple loaned Juarez $210,000. They also sued. And again, Juarez countersued, filing for a restraining order against that couple and accusing them of threatening him. A judge eventually ordered Juarez to pay them their loans with interest. That was $338,000 total. But as of last year, they still haven't been paid.
Wow. Okay. Darwin, despite all of these accusations, Juarez somehow maintains these close ties with influential political figures. How does he manage that?
Yeah, it's something that really jumps out in this story. Even as lawsuits piled up, Juarez built relationships with some of the East Bay's most powerful Democratic Party leaders, including Rob Bonta, who is now state attorney general, and his wife, Mia Bonta, who is now a member of the state assembly. People we spoke to described Juarez as an inveterate networker. He'd host political meetings at his Fruitvale office. He'd provide food and drink. He helped raise money for people's political campaigns. He offered office space for candidates to run their operations out of. One person who served with Juarez on the Democratic Party's Central Committee told us, quote, he figured out he could make political connections and people would hold their noses as long as he sends some money their way.
Basically, he was useful to people.
Seems so. And in 2014, when Juarez was trying to get state funding for the biodiesel plant, Rob Bonta, who was in the state assembly at the time, wrote a letter to state regulators recommending the project. Staff from Bonta's office even showed up at meetings to urge the board to fund it. And this was after Juarez had already been sued at least 11 times.
Did he get the funding?
They approved $3.4 million for Viridis, but the plant never moved forward. According to reporting in the San Francisco Chronicle, Viridis ultimately didn't receive the funding.
Okay, Natalie, around the same time, Juarez is also up to some other stuff. He was having trouble with state regulators over his real estate work. Now, what's going on there?
Yeah, so this was 2012. Juarez was hired by a commercial landlord to find a tenant for a small warehouse in East Oakland. Juarez found someone who wanted to grow cannabis there. According to state investigators, Juarez illegally charged the tenant a broker's fee and a pretty big security deposit that the landlord hadn't even asked for, and then pocketed the extra cash for himself. In 2015, Juarez voluntarily surrendered his real estate license.
Okay, now I know from your reporting in this instance, there actually was a criminal case, right?
Yep. The Alameda County DA's office, back then was led by Nancy O'Malley, charged Juarez with felony grand theft and forgery. But the DA actually later dropped the forgery charge and reduced the grand theft charge to misdemeanor. Juarez pleaded no contest and received a deferred entry of judgment, which left his criminal record clean.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's an interesting detail there. In February 2018, Juarez gave a $5,000 campaign contribution to O'Malley, who was running for re-election. On the disclosure form, he listed himself as a real estate broker, even though he'd surrendered his license 3 years earlier.
Right. And once again, in this case, just to be clear, there was no conviction. Okay, in a second, we are going to talk about the more recent situation that Juarez was involved in that caught the FBI's attention. First, I want to touch on one more pattern in Juarez's history, his entertainment ventures. Look, we're getting into a lot of backstory here, but Natalie, I know you wanted to make sure we did touch on this stuff too. I mean, these stories are really wild.
Yeah, I think these ones are maybe the best fodder for like a true crime podcast or TV show. So around 2015, Juarez got into nightclub promotion and the entertainment biz. He and two partners tried to launch a Latin music venue on Hegenberger Road. Within a year, Juarez was suing his own business partners, claiming he'd invested $90,000, but they'd frozen him out because he objected to their shady business practices. His partners fired back, claiming he hadn't actually invested that money. Their attorney wrote that Juarez, quote, has an extensive and checkered past and is known for not following through on his business promises and for leaving others holding the bag.
That's a theme here, right? These accusations of leaving others holding the bag.
Right. And then when he was still in this entertainment business in 2020, he ended up suing two prominent Mexican rock bands, El Tri, which is this legendary decades-old band, and Víctimas del Doctor Cerebro, over concert promotion deals gone wrong. The El Tri case is particularly wild. Juarez claimed the band owed him a cancellation fee for some shows that didn't pan out, but the band said Juarez was a wannabe music promoter who bounced a $20,000 check for the band to travel.
Wow.
And get this, related to the same case, a real estate broker told us that Juarez had asked to use her credit card to buy a ticket for a stranded musician to get to a music festival. She agreed, but then American Express called her to tell her she was actually buying 53 tickets.
Wait, 53 tickets?
53 tickets. So she naturally confronted Juarez, and he blamed the travel agent.
Okay.
Yeah, she let it go. When I spoke with her recently, she described Juarez as someone, quote, no one wanted as an enemy, end quote, because he was so well connected.
Right. I mean, all these stories you guys are sharing, I mean, they make you wonder how he maintained those connections over the years. Okay, Darwin, all of this leads up to a company called Evolutionary Homes. And that's the connection to the FBI case. So, Darwin, can you explain what Evolutionary Homes was?
Yeah, listeners might be a little more familiar with it because we've written a lot about this company over the past year. But Evolutionary Homes was the company that Juarez and David and Andy Duong created together in 2022. The idea was to manufacture modular homes. These are like shipping container homes. They'd be built in Mexico, and they wanted to sell them to local governments in California to house homeless people. According to federal prosecutors, Evolutionary Homes was at the center of the alleged bribery scheme. Prosecutors claim the Duongs and Juarez believed that if Sheng Tao won the mayoral election, again in 2022, she would help them secure millions in city contracts for their company. So, to help Tao win, prosecutors claim, Juarez used money from California Waste Solutions to pay for attack mailers targeting Tao's main opponents in the election.
Right. I mean, listeners may recall those mailers went out right before the election.
So in November 2022, Juarez spends over $100,000 on these mailers attacking Lauren Taylor and Ignacio de la Fuente. Remember, that's a detail that helped us establish that Juarez is co-conspirator one. And it's impossible to say whether or not those mailers really swung the election, but Tao did only win by less than 1,000 votes.
Right. Okay, Natalie, so then Tao becomes mayor. What happens next?
Well, according to public records, Tao did meet with officials from Evolutionary Homes in 2023. She also went on a government trip to Vietnam that was paid for by a business association controlled by the Duong family.
Yep.
But, the big contracts never actually materialized. The Oakland City Council never publicly considered or voted on any deal having to do with Evolutionary Homes.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody was buying, and it also appears that the company was coming apart from the inside also. The Duongs had invested roughly $1 million at this point, but Juarez allegedly only delivered a couple of completed homes. There were also allegations that workers at the company's factory in Tijuana weren't being paid. And this all leads up to May 3rd, 2024. So Juarez and the Duongs had a confrontation on that day outside the Duong's office building on Embarcadero. Juarez claimed the Duongs summoned a group of people who beat him and stole his watch and jewelry. David Duong dismissed Juarez's allegations as bizarre and disturbing, and in police reports, Andy Duong claimed that Juarez had threatened him, saying that cartel people were surrounding the Duong's office building.
Yeah, so the business relationship basically was souring at this point. Okay, then what happens?
Okay, so in mid-June, shots were fired outside of Juarez's home in Fruitvale. Juarez told police after that incident that he believed the attack was in response to his involvement in an unnamed investigation at the time. 2 weeks later, the FBI raided Sheng Tao's home, along with the properties belonging to the Duongs. And then the federal indictment came several months later.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when our newsroom was reporting all of this, putting all of these pieces of the puzzle together. And I think it's important to remind listeners that there was actually another criminal case around Juarez right around this same time. And it all goes back to those attack mailers. Darwin, remind us what that was about.
Right, as if this all couldn't get more complicated, but here it goes. So Juarez's checks that were supposed to pay the Postal Service for those election mailers he sent out, they bounced, and that caused the print shop that printed the mailers up to have their account revoked.
Okay.
So in January 2024, the DA's office, then led by Pamela Price, charged Juarez with fraud. Juarez responded to this by claiming that Price was retaliating against him because he refused to donate $25,000 to fight the recall campaign that she was facing. So Price's office ended up denying those claims, and Price later accused Juarez of being a crook.
Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening in that case?
In February of this year, just a few weeks after the new district attorney, Ursula Jones-Dixon, was sworn in, prosecutors dropped the case against Juarez. They said there were questions about whether they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
So once again, Juarez avoids a conviction. And meanwhile, Juarez's former business associates and the mayor get indicted on bribery charges.
Right. On January 17th of this year, federal prosecutors unsealed the indictment charging Tao, Jones, and the Duongs with bribery and conspiracy. And like we talked about, the indictment relies heavily on co-conspirator one, the person we've identified as Mario Juarez. The indictment references text messages where co-conspirator one seemingly admits to fraud. It's pretty wild. In one exchange with Angie Duong, he wrote, quote, "So we may go to jail, but we are $100 million richer."
Yeah, that is a quote that is burned into my brain. Okay, Darwin, let's talk about the recent motion that David Duong's attorneys have now filed. The motion trying to get the FBI's evidence against him thrown out. What are they saying?
Yeah, his defense attorneys are arguing that the FBI's case is built on the word of someone they call a known fraudster with a grudge. Duong's attorneys say that co-conspirator one has been a party to some 33 lawsuits where he's been accused repeatedly of cheating people and companies out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. They also point out that the FBI's own search warrant affidavit acknowledged that co-conspirator one appears to be motivated by revenge against the Duongs.
That's quite an admission on the FBI's part.
Yeah, and David Duong's lawyers are asking the judge to suppress all of the evidence that was collected during those FBI raids last year. They're arguing that the FBI withheld this kind of key information about co-conspirator one's credibility when they applied for those search warrants. If they prevail, it would be a major blow to the prosecution.
At the same time, prosecutors clearly believe they have other evidence. The indictment references those text messages, financial records, recorded conversations. So it's not solely based on Juarez's word.
Got it. Okay, now Darwin, going back to those political connections, what did people tell you when you asked them why Juarez was able to maintain these relationships despite all of these allegations against him?
We heard a lot of different theories. Some people said maybe Juarez was useful, that he had money, he had connections, he could make things happen. Others suggested something else. Former council member Ignacio de la Fuente told us he suspects many figures made alliances with Juarez because he was someone who would do unseemly things. He said they knew he was a crook, but they wanted to use the guy. De La Fuente also speculated that Juarez may have evaded criminal convictions over the years by becoming a valuable source for law enforcement. He said, quote, "The FBI, they want to get a few elected people. They use everybody." To be clear, that's just speculation, and Juarez once tried unsuccessfully to unseat De La Fuente on the city council, so consider the source.
Sure.
We haven't found any evidence that Juarez cooperated with law enforcement prior to 2024. But last year, after that shooting outside his house, he did tell the Oakland police that he was, quote, involved in an investigation he could not talk about, strongly implying his cooperation with the FBI.
Wow. Okay, Natalie, to wrap things up, just give us a sense of where the FBI's case stands now.
Yeah, so all four people, Tao, Jones, the Duongs, they've all pleaded not guilty. And the judge is currently considering David Duong's motion to suppress that evidence. Overall, the federal investigation is ongoing. Prosecutors have said they have gigabytes of evidence, and the defense attorneys are now scouring the stuff, preparing their defense. So we could be in for a pretty long ride still.
Sure.
As for Juarez, he hasn't been charged with any crime. And, while his former associates face serious legal jeopardy, he's just freely moving around. In March, 2 months after the indictment came down, he was posting on social media what appeared to be vacation photos from Dubai.
This is extraordinary reporting. Thank you both for walking us through it. Listeners, thank you for sticking with this story. I understand we've thrown a lot of facts and figures and dates at you here, but just given what this investigation has meant to Oakland, to our political landscape, I think it's really important to give people the full story. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tasneem.
Thanks.
You can find all of this reporting by Darwin Bongram, Natalie Ornstein, and Oaklandside City Hall reporter Eli Wolf on Mario Juarez and the FBI's corruption investigation in Oakland at oaklandside.org. We will also link to it in the show notes. All right, let's get into some other recent reporting from our newsroom. There's more in the full stories, which we will link to in the show notes, and you can always find at oaklandside.org. First up, from reporter Jose Fermoso, some big road safety news. Oakland is getting 18 speed cameras over the next 6 weeks. These are the first in the city in 11 years. The fines will range from $50 to $500, depending on exactly how fast you're driving. So the cameras are going to be placed on Oakland's high injury network, so the most dangerous roads in the city, where speeding is the leading cause of crashes that injure pedestrians. So 2 cameras each are going to go up on 98th Avenue, Bancroft, Foothill, 7th Street, with additional cameras on Hagenberger, MacArthur, International, Fruitvale, Broadway, MLK Junior Way, San Pablo, West Grand, and Claremont. The city will send warnings starting in mid-January. After 60 days, they will start issuing fines. All revenue from tickets will go toward traffic calming measures. Okay, moving on. Some potentially good financial news for Oakland in its long-running legal battle over a coal terminal. A federal district judge has vacated a bankruptcy court's ruling that could have cost the city hundreds of millions of dollars. So as Eli Wolf reports, a bankruptcy judge in Kentucky recently ruled that Oakland interfered with plans to build that coal export terminal at the old Army base, and it found the city liable for forcing the company behind that plan, Insight Terminal Solutions, into insolvency. The coal company argued that damages could be as high as $700 million. We can't sugarcoat this. That would be absolutely disastrous to Oakland in our current financial situation. But then, last Friday, a federal judge reviewed the decision and ruled that the bankruptcy court had overstepped its authority. Now, this does not end Oakland's legal troubles. The city now has to re-argue its case against the coal company's interference claims. And in September, the city did lose its final appeal in state court, which means the developer can move forward with the overall project. But for now, at least, Oakland is not on the hook for that massive fine. All right, moving on again. Autonomous cars are one step closer to hitting Oakland streets. That's more reporting from Jose Fermoso. The state's Department of Motor Vehicles approved Waymo to conduct driverless testing and deployment in Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, Hayward, and Fremont. Now, the company does still need a permit from the state before it can actually start operating here, and it is not clear when that might happen. Waymo has been operating in San Francisco. The cars have, at times, hit cyclists, run over pets, and created traffic jams, but the company argues that its cars cause fewer injuries on average than human drivers. Okay, next up, some City Hall drama. District 7 council member Ken Houston and Oakland's transportation director Josh Rowan have filed dueling ethics complaints against each other. Rowan accused Houston of trying to rig a city contract. Houston responded by accusing Rowan of defamation, something he announced at a recent city council meeting where he called the allegations a witch hunt. So this whole dispute centers on Houston's push to award a paving contract to a specific company. Without getting too deep in the weeds here, basically Houston wanted changes to a scoring system that would have benefited one bidder. Rowan says that crossed ethical lines. Both complaints are now with the city's Public Ethics Commission, and we're going to watch how this plays out. Okay, one more thing before we wrap up headlines. If you're starting to think about holiday shopping, we have published 3 walking gift guides, plus a guide to independent bookstores to help you support Oakland's small businesses. You can find all of them on our website, and we're going to link to them from the show notes. There's a Chinatown guide. It takes you to a handmade fortune cookie shop, an orchid and succulent vendor, and a really great spot for dim sum. There's a Laurel District guide featuring family-owned businesses that are selling everything from spiritual wellness products to hardware, and one of Oakland's best beer gardens. And in Fruitvale, we're going to help you find specialty spice shops, cowboy boots, and gifts you will not find anywhere else. These neighborhoods could really use your support right now, so please check out those guides. Speaking of going for a walk, it's ladybug season at Reinhardt Redwood Regional Park. Every year from November to February, ladybugs cluster along the steam trail. Just watch out where you step. All right, that is this week's episode of Oaklandside 510. You're going to find all the stories we talked about today at oaklandside.org. Sign up for our daily newsletter to get our reporting delivered straight to your inbox. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast. Share it with your Oakland friends and neighbors. The more people listening, the more we can keep the show going. Thank you to Oaklandside's Natalie Ornstein and Darwin Bongram for sharing their reporting on Mario Juarez. This episode was produced by Kiana Mogadam, edited by Esther Kaplan and Darwin Bongram, and hosted by me, Oaklandside Editor-in-Chief Tasneem Raja. On behalf of our entire newsroom, thank you for showing up for Oakland. We'll see you next week.